embraced identity politics. Last few weeks, notwithstanding some ill-advised tweets about Adam Schiff's name and retired Navy Admiral William McRaven, President Trump seems to be projecting a different dimension of himself. Understanding now that he has a Democrat House and he has to contend with that, might President Trump be trying a new approach to governance? Should he? Would this change minds or grow support for his economic agenda? It's clearly working. But beyond all of that, wouldn't it be good for the country? I get the sense, maybe you do too, that Americans have undoubtedly grown weary of how politics has infected so much of our daily lives. Not that it's not important. It obviously is, or I wouldn't be doing this every night. But it's not everything. And it shouldn't be a blood sport every single day. The president doesn't need to swing at every pitch, nor does he need to respond to every unfair criticism, no matter how vile it is. Not even when it comes from self-absorbed media figures. Now, this Thursday is supposed to be a time when we all gather around the table to give thanks. Not to get stuffing thrown at us by Cousin Helen or Uncle Joe, who's, in a white rage about the president's views on climate change or something. Well, maybe, just maybe, the president has decided to modestly recalibrate his approach to his job and find places where both parties can agree, even as the critics persist. Now, believe me, I'm not saying he should change his goals on core issues like trade or immigration. He's doing great on both. But he could be changing how he pursues them. I think the president needs more happy, not more anxious voters going into 2020. A recent Morning Consult poll showed that 64% of voters believe the media have divided the country, while 56%, not an insignificant number, blame the president. Now, it's not surprising that nearly two-thirds of Americans blame the press, given how biased and how completely unbalanced most of them are, and they've been toward this president since the beginning.
President Trump is ratcheting up his anti-immigration rhetoric, using the White House podium to stoke fear.
Look, I don't know whether the president's an anti-Semite or not. I get asked that question a lot. I think we all do. I also know that he has said things that are heard as dog whistles by anti-Semites.
He goes on television and pronounces himself a nationalist. Nationalist, that word has been used in many ways. It was used by the American Nazi Party.
Now, the vitriol from both the hard left and the media, and yeah, there's some overlap there, is spewed even as President Trump has attempted bipartisan outreach on issues such as immigration reform. Remember, the Democrats rejected it last February. Others might have responded to the political stonewalling by the Democrats with a to hell with the whole bipartisan thing, but not Trump. He's undeterred, trying to find common ground, announcing his support last week of an issue that Democrats once heartily clamored for. I'm talking about criminal justice reform.
Americans from across the political spectrum can unite around prison reform legislation that will reduce crime while giving our fellow citizens a chance at redemption. So if something happens and they make a mistake, they get a second chance at life.
This got about as much coverage as his visit to California this weekend. In other words, not that much. Not one Senate Democrat attended the White House announcement, which I found to be a disgrace. This political slight was not lost, by the way, on Senator Cory Booker's home paper. Today, the Star-Ledger wrote the following. Booker, who's made a huge issue about justice reform, should have gone to the White House and showed bipartisanship. Democrats can engage with the White House and show independence at the same time. Well, apparently not. The left's new strategy is to completely deny that Trump has accomplished anything positive and to deny him any cooperation, even on issues where they agree. Now, how sick is that? Only a few fair-minded liberals like CNN's Van Jones, who worked with the White House, including Jared Kushner, on this bill, actually celebrated the accomplishment.
President Trump said, listen, if this is going to make the streets safer, if it's going to give people a fairer chance, if some of these forgotten men and women, some of them are in Appalachia as well, let's do something. And so, listen, I think you got to give him some credit. When I'll give him a salute and an applause.
And for that statement of support, Jones was lacerated. Professor Crystal Marie Fleming tweeted, "Give the white supremacist misogynist his due," Van Jones says. Others were equally unhinged. Michael Harriot at the Root saying, "No, Van Jones, I do not have to give the racist in chief his due." So much for common cause. Now, by the way, for all you looking like to the Obama presidency through these rose-colored glasses today, this is what the country felt about the state of America 6 years into Obama's presidency. 55% said Obama had done more to divide than unite the country. Well, now this is something the president at the time said he had to admit when he gave his final State of the Union address.
It's one of the few regrets of my presidency that the rancor and suspicion between the parties has gotten worse instead of better.
Well, are things today worse? Maybe. And both folks from both parties, they can do better, including the president, including me, all of us, I guess. And we should celebrate, though, the president, because he's trying to reach across the aisle. Criminal justice reform is just one of the examples. And just because haters on the left are going to ridicule him or belittle the president's efforts is no reason for the president to back off. His trip to California, prison reform, his work to lift the standard of living of minority communities, it's all positive signs. There are those who will work overtime to deflect and demean any efforts by this president to broaden his appeal. And most importantly, to broaden the appeal of his policies that, again, are working. I say let the critics do what the critics are going to do. This will make them look petty and just pure partisan. Reagan appealed to women and minorities by smiling through the storm, always keeping the focus on the lives of everyday Americans. Trump calls them the forgotten people. Their families, their jobs, their neighborhoods, their faith. By taking the focus off himself and keeping it on the horizon of possibility, the president will unmask the real dividers and give voters more of what they're hungering for: unity through strength. And that's the angle. Here now, Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union, Candace Owens, communications director for Turning Points USA, and Chris Hahn, former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer. Matt Schlapp, let's start with you. I think the president has shown, frankly, oftentimes enormous restraint, given how radical the left has become and how much they resist giving any credit or just any pretense even of wanting to work with him on issues, even an issue as powerful as criminal justice reform.
No, that's right. And the American Conservative Union has been taking the lead on that important issue. I think it must be tough to be the president because when he turns on his television set at night, except for this show and a few other shows, and when he reads the paper in the morning, 90% of it is just an indictment and an attack on everything he is and everything he stands for. And I think you're right. I think he's got to take it all and understand that the American people love his agenda. They want him to push hard. And I think he would do the country a lot of good if his leadership could also include the fact, look, Nancy Pelosi or another Democrat most likely will be leading the Democrats in the House. They're going to be the majority party. Let's work on infrastructure. Let's work on China as a national security foe. And let's get criminal justice reform passed. I think it would show the country that on some matters, partisanship and what party you're in, it just isn't as important as getting something done for the country.
Chris, back in June, there was a piece I came across today when I was getting ready for the show from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It was a column written by Lee Rodonis. Here is the title: Why Trump Can Never Unite the U.S. While the political divide between Republicans and Democrats has been growing for many years, Trump's entrance onto the political stage has raised the intensity of the division to a level that would have been impossible to predict just a few short years ago. Well, I got to say, we got Obamacare rammed through without a single Republican vote. I think the stimulus had like one vote. Seminal pieces of legislation had virtually no Republican support, totally upended a seventh of our economy. That was pretty divisive stuff from Obama, was it not, Chris?
I don't think so. I think most Americans now understand that that was actually the right thing, which is why they sent Democrats to Congress this year. I think that the president should do more to reach across the aisle. I met the president before he was president. I found him very engaging and very charming. And I think that if he engaged more and didn't, like you say, swing at every pitch thrown at him, I think he could do better. And I think he would do better as president. I think he'd get more accomplished. I think this criminal justice reform measure that he passed, I will be one of the progressives that say that's a great thing. I think it's great for our country.
Chris,
I think it's great for a lot of people who have been thrown away.
Where were the Democrats? The fact that Cory Booker doesn't, Chris, I'm not, ranting at you here. It's just frustrating because I knew Cory Booker. Candace, when he was the third way kind of Democrat, to use the old Clinton Al Fromm formulation. He was a third way Democrat. He was interesting. He was innovative. He was moderate on a lot of issues. He could work with Republicans, Candace. He doesn't even show up for this. Couldn't be bothered. Candace.
I mean, that's what we're seeing. And look, I'm under the impression that I believe very much that Trump is a wartime president. He's like Winston Churchill. He's like Harry S. Truman. So people say, oh, he shouldn't attack. He shouldn't go on the offense so much. But he should, because he's exposing the people that have, in fact, been at the helm of all of this divisive rhetoric in this country. In many ways, I think that history will favor the president. They will show that the reason that he won is because he was serving a united message. This is a message that the politicians perhaps don't understand, that the swamp does not understand, that perhaps the Hollywood elitists do not understand, but the American people do. We understand exactly what he's doing, and that's why we support him, and that's why he is in the White House today.
Yeah, my view on this is being tough, that's great. We all love a tough, strong president. But, you don't have to, ridicule Adam Schiff's name. There's plenty about Adam Schiff you can take issue with substantively, and Matt, I'll go with you on this. That's the kind of thing where that's just an unforced error. There's no reason you have to do that. I'm not going to harp on it, but that's the kind of thing that detracts from all the progress, economic progress, and the stuff he's doing that's good stuff. There's no reason for it. I know it's tempting. We all get in that mode. I mean, I've done it too, but I don't think he's not advancing his own cause into the areas of the country among women, among minorities, in my view on that. But, maybe people have a different view.
I think when it comes to the investigation of which has gone on for basically his entire presidency, I think the entire nation has had enough. I think it's interesting, Laura. Democrats didn't run 30-second ads on Russian collusion or Robert Mueller. We're all done with it. I think what you're saying in your opening, in your angle is, look, when the president is the commander-in-chief, when the president is our leader and he goes to California and consoles people who are having devastation, everyone in America is rooting him on. And when the president stands up for things like criminal justice reform, I think he's going to get more Americans to root him on. And I think there's only so much bandwidth people have on issues, and he ought to focus on the most important ones.
Chris.
So Laura, Democrats ran on health care. Republicans ran that Democrats are evil. I think Candace had it right. The president is a wartime president. We're at war in Afghanistan. He's not in a war with people of the opposing party. We might sometimes disagree. The election is over, and it is time for us now to try to move the country forward and find common ground. Every good president that's faced a defeat like this president has in a midterm has moderated their positions, moved to the center, found common ground, and gotten reelected. If he doesn't move to the center...
Whoa. Obama lost 63 seats. How did he moderate his position? He ran against Mitt Romney, who wrote off half the country with the surreptitiously recorded, statement. I mean, I don't think Obama moderated at all. I don't see any example of how he moderated. I mean, I don't see that.
If he hadn't moderated, he wouldn't have gotten reelected.
I don't think so.
The president moved his position. He tried to work Republicans.
Yeah, all right, Candace, last word. Let's go to Candace for last word. Candace, can this president unite? Go ahead.
I absolutely do believe that he can unite, and I believe that we are at war. The war is ideological. We're up against cultural Marxism in this country, and that is what the president is fighting day in and day out. And look, people like to say that we should not be, he should not be tweeting. Well, that's why he won. He won because he understands and he's harnessing the power of social media in the same way that FDR harnessed the power of the radio, and in the same way that JF Kennedy harnessed the power of TV. So he understands what he's doing, and I think that that's the reason he's going to win again in 2020.
All right, guys, thank you so much.
Not at war with other Americans.
All right, well, thank you. You got to expand that base. Keep expanding. Focus on the American people. I think that's my old boss, and that's what he did, and I'm sticking to it. All right, while the president was touring the charred neighborhoods of California with two Democratic leaders, the far left was engaged in violent protests just north of him in Portland, Oregon. Now take a look at these shocking videos from just this past weekend.
Don't touch me. Stop touching. ready to fight because they really think that they're in a cosmic battle on the streets.
No, because they're up against Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, the KKK, all wrapped into one. And one moment it's Trump, the next moment it's you for filming this, and it's craziness. It's got to stop. Andy, stay safe out there. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I want to turn to the Democrats' new plan for 2020. Abandon and demonize half the country. An illuminating piece in Politico today points out how identity politics have come to dominate the party's new power structure, writing, white and non-white Democratic hopefuls are shrugging off warnings that embracing so-called identity politics could distract from the party's economic message and push white voters further into Donald Trump's arms. Joining us now is Dr. Carol Swain, is a former professor of political science at Vanderbilt University Law School, and civil rights attorney Leo Terrell. Leo, let's start with you. Is this the direction that you want to see your party go?
I want to see it go like you've been trying to tell Mr. President Trump throughout your entire program. Trump plays identity politics. He has sent out coded message. The Democrats welcome his identity politics, and they're intersecting race, identity, and social issues, such as criminal justice. They're challenging whites to join up because Trump has alienated every base in this country. I've been watching your show. You see it, Laura. You've been trying to send Trump a message. He plays identity politics, and the Democrats are seizing on it. Final point, Orange County, also known as Reagan Country, is now all blue, Laura Ingraham. Orange County, California, all blue. Ask yourself why.
I'm aware that it's turned all blue. There are a lot of reasons for that. Democrats also lost the South over a period of time. That had to be, slowly worked on by the Democrat Party. Politics is not a zero-sum game. It changes over time, Leo. You know that as well as I do. But Carol, you have been very vocal, especially on social media, discussing why you think African Americans need to maybe, in some cases, look a second time at Donald Trump because of what he's done just on the issue of the economy with black people and helping minorities have a better standard of living.
Well, yes, I am an enthusiastic supporter of President Trump, and we already see movements of blacks, especially black men, supporting the president. And as far as identity,
go ahead. Sorry.
As far as identity politics, the political left has been playing that for the last 2 decades on university campuses, and they've taken it now to the electorate. And I think that it polarizes, it's tribalism, and it doesn't serve the interests of Americans. And so it's not Donald Trump, it's the political left, and they're destroying America in the process.
But Leo, I want you to respond to Carol. Hold on, I want you to respond to Carol, but she was referencing what's happening on college campuses, whether it's Berkeley, whether it's happening at at some of the Ivy League schools. People are literally afraid to speak out. They're afraid. If you're conservative and you're on a college campus, maybe you're a Christian conservative, you're some evangelical kid, you're afraid to say anything. You're afraid to speak. That can't be liberal, right?
Laura, I saw the same numbers that you saw at the midterm. White college students voted Democrat. White male with college degrees and females, they voted Democrat this year.
Because
Laura,
you know
the story.
Because they have been shamed and intimidated.
Come on.
When
they go in that polling booth, shame on you. When they go in that polling booth, they're not shamed. You hear what she's saying? She's saying that white college people are being brainwashed on national TV. Laura, you don't believe that. You don't believe that, Laura.
Yeah, Leo, what did both Hillary Clinton and we have a segment coming up. We're going to talk about what Kirsten Powers said about white women, that they're too stupid or too naive, and the fact that they voted for Trump, they must be racist. I mean, who's playing identity politics more than the left, saying that a black person can't support Trump, you're self-loathing, or a white woman can't support Trump, you're a racist? And you're saying Donald Trump's the problem? You got to be kidding me.
What I'm saying to you, Laura Ingraham, is that white
You can just call me Laura, by the way. There's no other
Laura,
Laura on set.
Laura, okay, Laura. pal, friend. Whites supported Trump in 2016, but in 2018, they left him. And for my opponent here, you're talking about blacks are moving towards Trump. When he does criminal justice reform, I'll vote Republican, okay? When he actually talks, when he puts pen to paper, I'll vote for Trump in 2020.
He's already done more for blacks than President Obama and previous Democrats.
Those
and
are talking
blacks are waking up. Blacks are waking up to the fact that the Democratic Party has used them as pawns. And Donald Trump is
that's a monolithic. That's a monolithic analogy.
Hey, guys,
when he gets criminal justice reform, I'm voting for Trump. Criminal justice reform, I'm voting for Trump.
Leo, let me just tell you.
Activists like you are just helping destroy America. White people have civil rights
that's
too.
talking points, Laura. That's typical talking points.
We have a Constitution that protects everyone.
One of you is going to have to stop talking for just a second. Let me just say, Leo, I'm going to take you out to dinner, okay? When you come to D.C., I'm taking you out to dinner. Carol's going to come. Carol, I'll fly you in. We're all going to have a meal together, okay? But, Leo, you will vote for Trump, because I'm telling you, he is going to get this criminal justice reform. I believe he's going to get it passed. And he's going to get some Democrat support. Watch. That means Leo's going to vote for Trump.
I'm recording this program, Laura.
Make America great again, Leo. All right.
All right, good.
Guys, it's great to have you both on. You're both wonderful guests. And coming up, a special Monday night edition of Seen and Unseen with Raymond Arroyo. Up next. Don't go away. Of Georgia, and some new genes could make Thanksgiving more pleasant. For all the details, we're joined by Raymond Arroyo, Fox News contributor, New York Times bestselling author of the Will Wilder series. Raymond, why is Detroit planning to remove Ben Carson's name from a local school? What?
Of all the people, nice Ben Carson, the neurosurgeon, now HUD secretary, the Detroit Education Board, Laura, voted 6-1 to remove his name from a school that it's been on since 2011, okay? It's the Ben Carson High School of Science and Medicine. You would think that would be okay. Well, they feel the people of Detroit are out of sync with the Trump administration, and therefore Ben Carson must go. Now, of all the cabinet members, who could be more mild and inspirational, frankly, than Ben Carson? Here's a little bit of his talk about the mind and the importance of initiative. Listen.
The human brain, if you have an average brain, you're capable of almost anything because of the complexity of our brains. Billions and billions of neurons, hundreds of billions of interconnections. With something like that sitting up here, why would you ever utter the words, I can't?
That's
now,
very
Ben
dangerous.
Carson is he's a Detroit native, Laura. A man who came up from poverty. He became head of pediatric neurology at Johns Hopkins. He separated Siamese twins. Why wouldn't you leave his name? But you know what it shows? Political assassins willing to take and strike people's memory, names, images because they disagree politically. The other day it was Robert E. Lee. Today, not even Ben Carson is safe. I don't like this idea of targeting political opponents this way, no matter who's in charge.
Ben Carson? First of all, we haven't seen much of Ben Carson. Like, I want to see more of Ben Carson. Where is he, by the way? I like him, but I don't see enough of him. All right, Raymond, shortly before Stacey Abrams' defeat in the Georgia governor's race, Frank Rich tweeted, quote, "If Kemp wins Georgia, Hollywood should put its money where its mouth is and pull all production out of the state." Now, I thought Frank Rich was such a great reviewer. I think he's such a great writer. But, this is so sad to me. Now, this is getting completely out of hand. What's going on?
Well, it started a bandwagon effect. Now a lot of Hollywood stars, Alyssa Milano and others, Ron Perlman, they've jumped on the bandwagon. Alyssa Milano tweeted, there are 20 production shooting in Georgia. Is the entertainment industry willing to support the economy of a totally corrupt state that suppresses democracy, where the winner isn't the best choice for the people, but the best schemer or crook? Now, I want to stop here for a second. Imagine if the people of the United States looked to California and said, this is a corrupt state, these people disagree with me, therefore we shouldn't help them in the wake of these fires. This is an outrage. You have to give diversity and allow states to vote their own way, vote their conscience, and elect their own representatives.
This whole show tonight.
You don't get to bully them.
We didn't even plan it this way, but the show is just revealing what the left is doing. to shut down diversity of thought, and it has to be resisted if we're going to live in a free society. All right, Raymond, real quick, tell me about these new British. Can we call them dungarees? Is that allowed? Dungarees?
Well, they refer to them. This is a UK company called Shreddies, and they are releasing something called the flatulence filtering jeans. They actually have a charcoal lining, Laura, that, well, they erase the aroma that comes when one passes gas. And according to this company, a healthy person passes gas 14 times a day during Thanksgiving. I'll bet that's multiplied by at least 12. So imagine the health advantages of these jeans. I have to read the instructions to you. We'll put them up real fast. This is the instruction. Sit or stand with your legs together and let your wind out slowly. That's the way these jeans work best. So these are going to sell a lot better than Celine Dion's gender-neutral demonic children's wear. I promise you. So
all right. This is just...
Happy Thanksgiving.
My kids can finally watch a segment on my show and laugh. All right, Raymond, happy Thanksgiving. Great to see you. All right, up next, the full story on the caravan that you are not hearing, of course. A dual Mexican-American citizen who's been down in Tijuana and a border agent who just met with President Trump today. Join us next. Stay right there.
Pete Roos, it was a joke. It was about fear and loathing.
This stupid caravan conspiracy theory.
And the solution to the caravan invasion all along, it wasn't the troops, it wasn't walls, it was apparently just getting past the midterm elections.
We've long said that it's easy to want to welcome everyone to enter this country from your TV studios in Manhattan, but it's a far different reality when the Patrol Union who met with the president today. Paloma, tell us a little bit of what you've seen just over the past few days down there.
Well, I've seen Mexico being furious at this caravan invading. They're calling it an invasion of Mexico, an invasion of Tijuana. People are out on the streets demanding, begging our government to send these people back to their countries because we should take care of our Mexican people before we take care of anybody else, which is a very similar sentiment that as Americans are having right now.
Are you scared that, by the way, that you're going to be called a racist yourself as a dual Mexican-American citizen for basically wanting Mexico to have its own sovereign space?
I already get called a racist.
That's great. Wow.
Yeah.
Art, I want to go to you here. This affects the Border Patrol once they cross into the country. The story today that there's an extra spillover coming to the Yuma sector in Arizona. Last time I saw you a couple weeks ago in Arizona. You talked to the president today. What does he say?
You know, it was we had a meeting with the president earlier today. I think it was a very good meeting. I think we have a president on board. We just need to get everyone else on board.
Paul Ryan, do the right thing before you leave this town.
They all got to
actually do something to help this country when it comes to this immigration crush. It's outrageous that this has not been solved by the Republicans who had the House and the Senate and did literally almost nothing on this huge asylum problem. I'm sorry. It's a major problem, and the media were lying when they said it wasn't a problem.
We need the DHS leadership to get on board.
Yeah, Kristen Nielsen, God bless her. She's a nice person, but where the heck is she?
Everyone's got to get on board.
You got to get Tom Homan in there, although I'd miss him on the show. All right, we got to go. Listen up, women. A CNN commentator says that you're racist if you support the president. Oh, that's nifty. Monica Crowley, Rochelle Ritchie take on that debate after the break.
It's one thing to just be intolerant and have your own views and say, I'm not interested in what other people think and I'm not going to talk to them. I think that's a problem and that's bad. It's an extra step to say that people cannot say or express things that you disagree with. And that's what this book is about. It's about this not only do they not want to hear it, they don't want anyone else to hear it.
Now, that was Kirsten Powers when she was selling a book called The Silencing, How the Left is Killing Free Speech. She felt very strongly about it at the time. She actually wrote that in the book, the book title. And now how things have changed, just 3 years. Now Kirsten Powers is doing her own silencing and berating white women who voted for Trump.
They'll say, well, I'm not racist. I just voted for him because, I didn't like Hillary Clinton. And I just want to say that that's not that doesn't make you not racist. It actually makes you racist.
Okay, you follow that logic. We didn't even get to the patriarchy part of that. All right, joining me now with a reaction, Monica Crowley, Washington Times opinion editor, and Democratic strategist Rochelle Ritchie. Monica, let's start with you. Kirsten isn't the only pundit making this claim, but she might be the most surprising given some of her past work. Your thoughts?
I've known Kirsten for years, and I like and respect her very much, but I'm incredibly disappointed in her remarks here. She seems to have dutifully submitted to CNN and its insane, dishonest agenda. I mean, there are two things that are ludicrous on its face in her remarks about, well, if you voted for Donald Trump, particularly if you're a white woman, that somehow makes you a racist. The first, Laura, is that it's the presumption that Donald Trump himself is a racist, which clearly he is not. That is all part of this massive defamation effort launched against this president from day one, and only fools believe that. The second part of this is, if you voted for him, you're a racist. Well, then by that logic, Laura, if you voted for Mrs. Clinton, you are a liar and a lawbreaker. Yeah. If you voted for Donald Trump, you're a racist. I mean, or a rapist. It is patently absurd, and it doesn't follow any logic whatsoever. And I'm just very disappointed.
Yeah, well, I'm beyond disappointed because what she's doing is generalizing and stereotyping, which is what the left says that conservatives routinely do. You see, I think you could be a woman and be liberal, conservative, black conservative, white liberal. It's about what you believe. And Rochelle, I want to go to you on this. To say that women who voted for Trump are racist, she also said they're oppressed because they're part of the patriarchy. Then she said they benefit from the patriarchy. We don't have time to play that part of the soundbite. That didn't even make sense to me. They're oppressed, but then they benefit from it. Which is it? Your reaction?
Well, look, Laura, I'm not going to sit here and say that all white women that voted for Trump are racist. I don't believe that, so that's not going to come out of my mouth. What I will say is that I think that those women that voted for Trump, where he's been accused of racism, I think they don't care if he is, because it does not impact their everyday lives. Now, taking race out of this, just not talking about white women, but talking about women in general that voted for Trump, it surprises me only not because of their race. It surprises me because of the misogynistic comments that have come from Trump, and yet he has still been able to have some sort of support from white women or women in general. So that's the big thing to me. I'm not really sure, why Kirsten made these comments, because quite frankly, this is a system that she has benefited from as a white woman.
Yeah, but the liberals didn't care about any of this after Bill Clinton, right? He became a global brand after being impeached. You just watched that A&E special on the Clintons. It was like a flashback for all of us who were covering it at the time. But that wasn't really a concern back then, that women can't support Bill Clinton because look what he did. It's like women disagree, and they disagree on these issues. Monica, close it out real quick.
Yeah, feminism was supposed to be about women having the ability to do what they wanted and think the way they wanted. And look, I voted for Donald Trump. I am not a racist. I voted for Trump because of economic issues, trade, exiting the Iran deal, renegotiating NAFTA, and so on, and pro-Israel stance. That's why I voted for him. Period.
All right, guys, thanks so much. We'll have a longer segment next time. And the craziest high school football finish of all time. The Last Bite next.
At the end of the day, there's nothing better than a glass of
bite. Now, this might have been the craziest high school football game of all time in Washington, D.C. Last night, Catholic rivals Gonzaga and DeMatha were